Welcome to Radio Fixer's channel. Subscribe for upcoming videos. I would like to take this opportunity and thank each of you for reaching out, leave me such uplifting messages. You guys are incredible people. I keep learning from each of you, and thank you so much for doing that. You all have a great day. This is part 2 of repairing Montgomery Ward Model 62476. If you are a new subscriber, I highly suggest to go back and review part 1 where we discuss how to disassemble the radio and test the power supplier. I am repairing this radio for John's daughter and hoping can finish it before this Christmas, so she and her family can enjoy listening to the radio and celebrate John's memory. Hope you enjoy this video. Now let's talk about some safety issue. You're dealing with electricity. It's very dangerous. It can kill you, so be very careful, please. I need a few equipment that you can purchase it in Amazon. First one, you must have isolated transformer to keep you safe when you're working in the antique radios, and also variable condenser, or they call it variac. You can actually adjust the amount of electricity comes inside the radio. And this one, the dim bulb tester, you can actually build this yourself. You can Google it. There's tons of information out there. This is the setup I'm using on my workbench. Please make sure you know to use this equipment to keep you safe. Now that we know the transformer is fine after testing the continuity test, now is the time to start changing the capacitor. Again, if you're new, I suggest very highly to replace one at a time. Don't remove all of them. I just do one at a time, and then there's not that many of them really. As you saw, there was 2 here that I removed already. Of course, I took a bunch of pictures to know where they hook up. And there's one here, 2, 3, 4. There's just 4 other paper capacitors that need to be replaced. I'm going to focus on this one first. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it right close to the capacitor, right close, because I want to have that little space you see right there. I want to have that so I can solder the newer one to it. I don't want to remove everything from the pen. I'm going to make it easier for also next person can, if they need to replace it, be easier for them. Alright, so let me cut this off. Again, this is a good tool to have. See, I'm going to cut it very close to the capacitors. And here as well. See, now I have this space right here that I can solder the new one to it on both sides. You see that? Okay, now let's check to see what size capacitor this is. 0.1 microfarad, 400 volts. I'm going to quickly measure it just to know how off this is. Put in capacitors. It shows 171 NF. 100 NF is equal to 0.1 microfarad. So this is definitely is much higher than what it's supposed to be. I was planning to replace it anyhow, but just usually I'd like to check to see how bad the parts are. Always is a good idea to test your part before installing it, because you don't want to install it and later on find out that is for one reason or another it was a bad unit. Okay, here shows the reading of these capacitors. As you see, is 99 NF, which is 0.1 microfarad. So this is in good range. I can install it. You can again use this equipment or multimeter to do the testing. Just quickly to show you, I set the multimeter on capacitor. Now let's read it with that one. This one shows 100 NF again. So again, you have this. You can test it with any of this. Just want to show you quickly. Since I do not have oscilloscope to find the ground side, so it's hard to test it any other way, or at least I don't know how else I can test it to know the ground side. So I'm going to just install it. I'm going to put it here, measure it. It's going to be 1 here and here. So these two sides I'm going to make a pigtail. I get a small screwdriver. Pigtail, the reason I mark them so I know how far I can go. And just get like this, you just twist it around there, like that. So I'm going to use this. This is going to be something like that, right? I'm going to do the other side as well. See now both sides I have pigtail. See that? Then I'm going to install it right. One goes right here. Another one goes right there. It's going to be easy installation. Again, I didn't want to take all this lead out from the pan. You have to be careful you don't break those. So the easiest way to do it this way. I'm going to do quickly solder here. Alright. Alright, both sides finished. Just double checking under magnifying glass, make sure. Yeah, these are done. Let's continue the other one. Here I'm testing the other capacitor. This one was hooked up there, as you remember. And just testing, I'm going to replace all of them. This is supposed to be 0.01, which is a 10 NF. Here when I'm testing it is almost 15 NF, so definitely this is over as well. Alright, since I have the capacitor out, before installing it, I'm going to measure this dark bone resistor, which is on 6F6 and a pin between 1 and 5. So I'm going to test it to see what actually going to shows. Schematic shows this dark bone resistor is a 600 meg. Let's see if it's in good range or not. That is 676 K, not meg. Let me double check the schematic. Yeah, definitely, as you see here, schematic says R11 is 600 mega ohm. I think they made a mistake. Sometimes schematics does not have the right information, so it's always good idea to check the original part to make sure that everything is accurate. Sometimes the wires, it might be wrong pen number. Be careful with those things. I create this program. Hopefully pretty soon going to be available. Here I'm going to click on the dark bone resistor. So I'm going to key what actually I am seeing in original part. The body of capacitor is green, so that's what I select. Then right on the B portion is black, and the C dot itself is yellow. Of course, the end there is no color, so I'm going to select this no color. So the system, the automatic here is telling me that of course the resistance should be 500K. The minimum is a 400K. The maximum 600K. So this dark bone resistor is over the tolerance and need to be replaced. I removed this capacitor. It was sitting right here. I'm going to install this, but the distance is very far. It goes from here to there. This goes right here, something like that. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to make a pigtail. It's just a wire I twisted around here. I'm going to use, since I don't want to add any more wire to this, I'm going to try to solder this right in this location. See this little wire here? I cut it and left a little space for myself so I can solder it to here. Over there was no issue. It's long enough to hook it up there, but here I had to do something. I didn't want to add more wire to this. Hopefully it makes sense. So it says right here, so I'm going to cut the extra one out. You really don't need that much, just a little bit, just a few turns, so it comes out. So of course you're going to cut the extra one out. Good tool to have to do this type of work. So this goes inside this wire, like here, this little piece that is left. I'm going to put this inside like that. All right. If I measure this, this is exactly in the range. 10 NF is equal to 0.01. That is what NF means. I build a database. So always a key, if it says NF, or PF, I key it into the database so quickly it calculates for me. So I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure it out on calculator, and I want to spend more time to work on this instead to do a lot of calculation. See that pigtail is right there, so the only thing I need to do, I push this inside that pigtail wire like that. See, like that. Now I can solder that area. So now this is going to be long enough to solder that side. Then you have two options for insulation here. You use the shrinking tube, or actually get an electrical wire like this. I took the insulation out, so inside is empty, and I can install this like here. See? So those are the two options you have. They both will work. And I'll be honest with you, I usually do this more because it's much thicker than this. Depends what I have around, So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, installed. Now let's solder it. Okay, that side finished. Let's now do this side. All right, both sides finished. Now we have two more capacitors. Those need to be replaced as well. I'm going to use the same concept again. These are pretty hard where located. It's really hard to get to. I need to figure out where actually they go, because they're under this and I cannot remove this. I cut the capacitors, of course, was hooked up here. Then there was a wire here, I think goes to the speaker. There is also a resistor here, was covered with one of this, like here. I promise you this is resistor as well. I removed this, to double check the resistor. The body is brown, this side is black, and the dot is green. So I key that into the database, and it's telling me this is a 1 meg resistor. So let's check it. I always like to check things, and that's why I removed that. I want to make sure that is a resistor because it was covered, as I mentioned, with this. Yeah, it shows 3 meg. Is it brown or is orange? I think the body is orange. Let's double check. Yeah, it is orange. When resistor get old, it's so hard to tell the colors. That's why you want to measure it to double check. I rekey it back in the database, and it's orange, black, green, and that is a 3 meg. The minimum can be 2.4 meg. The maximum is 3.6. So if we run this, it's perfect. I'm not going to change it. They call them dark bond resistors. They don't go bad that often. Work on radios for a while now. Usually they are working well. So anyway, just want to show you. I put this cover back over it. It was like that. They were protecting it like that. So then I'm going to put it back there, reinstall everything. I'm going to need to replace the other side, try to find out. So let me work on that. Okay, finally I remove the other capacitor. As you see, it goes in the center of the volume control. It goes right here in the center. I unsolder it from here. Since it was so close to the frame, I couldn't put pigtail there. So I had to remove it. And sometimes you cannot use pigtail. You have to think about, do you have enough space? Like this side, as you see, I had enough space right there. Right here, there's not enough space. I ran this 0.01 in the database, and the system tells me the NF is a 10, the minimum is 9, maximum is 11. So this is, out of range as well. I just want to show you how that database is helping me to make quick decision, because otherwise I need to figure out, okay, what NF means, like this is microfarad, here it shows me nanofarad, NF. So this is make my job much easier. Believe me, that database to help me. Let's install this one as well. And since this is going to be really close to the frame that I showed you, I'm going to double insulate it. Already used some of this heat shrink, you see installed it right here. Then I also gonna use one of this right over it, just for double protection, because it's going to be very, very close to the chassis itself. All right, so let's install this. One thing I want to share with you, whenever you work in that tight area, of course, you always want to clean or remove as much old solder as possible. What I got, this has a bunch of tools like this, like that. I use this. You heat up the area and you try to open the hole. You see the hole is open now. This actually go through, see? So you want to do that to install this, be much easier. Again, I don't want too much solder there, so I had to clean it up. Again, because it's so close to the chassis, you want to make sure that it's clean. So that's the trick usually I use. I bought this like a Goodwill, and it has all these tools, in it, like this, that can be used. Because the screwdriver, it doesn't go in angle, right? All right, the soldering finish, as you see here, is enough space. Here, all the soldering also finished. So everything installed. Here was 3 wires going through it. Was a capacitor from here, as you remember. Was a speaker wire going here, and also this was a capacitor that goes in the center of volume control. Now I'm going to push this back the way it was. So we're done with that. As you remember, the 2 large capacitors right here in the surface, these are the 2 was installed. And I usually don't like to install under the chassis. I like to keep it as original as possible, especially with the radios that they are special, they are very different, they're much older. So I'm going to remove this old capacitor. You see the negative wire still is hooked up. There's 2 screws here I'm going to remove. I'm going to remove the capacitor, large capacitor, try to see if I can open it up and install the new capacitor inside. Let's cut that negative wire. They already cut the other 2 when they installed those that we discussed earlier. So I'm going to cut this off. Okay, this is off. This the negative. I'm going to put it aside so later on I can use it, or at least I know where it goes. Let's remove those 2 screws. There's a nut and washer. Hopefully I can stuff it. It's more work, I'll be honest with you, but that's the way I like to fix things. It's going to be much simpler if I install it underneath the way it was. If this doesn't work, then I'm going to go that route. It's right here. Yeah, it came out. I have to be very careful with this. I don't want to lay it over here. This can crack. They're very fragile. Yeah, the 2 washers are right here. I'm going to put this inside the bag so I don't lose them. I'm going to try to see if I can remove this wax here. If it's possible, I'm going to install the capacitor inside. We have this cheap soldering iron. After it heat up, I'll just go over like that to see it goes through the wax. Let's see if this can work or not. Let me work on this. Alright, I removed some of the wax, as you saw, and this is what I noticed. This is just the metal. Usually there is a can, and then they put the cardboard over the aluminum can, but this is totally different. This is all cardboard, and they put a metal here. So these 3 wires come in the middle of it all. And then this is where they stamp them to hold the metal to this cardboard. So I don't want to remove this metal. because if I do that, I have to cut all this off. The best is to just clean it up very nice. You see, there is no voltages on this at all, just part number as you see. But I'm going to look at through a schematic. I can't tell. It was two capacitors. There's 3 wires. Usually one of them is a negative or ground. The other 2 should be positive. There's no marking that I can't tell what microfarad they use for those two capacitors. Not a big deal. I'm going to look at through a schematic. So I cleaned it pretty nice. At least it's very shiny now. I wish I could take this apart and install the capacitor inside. I never saw a capacitor like this before. This is the first time I'm seeing something like this. Again, if I remove it, I have to cut this, remove it, and might get damaged. So I'm just going to put this back, and I'm going to install those 2 capacitors under the chassis. Just want to show you. I went all the way in over the capacitor is. You see right there, that metal? That's where the capacitors, the aluminum foils, that's where it starts. They went at least, say, half an inch or so. This is where it starts. Anyway, just want to show you. This pretty interesting capacitor. All the capacitor here they use in this radio, they're all solar. And some manufacturers, they didn't put microfarad on it. They just put a part number. As you can see, this one has a part number. Those are small things. I need to see under magnifying glass what they're saying. I'm going to put it back in the chassis. At this time, I want to take the opportunity and thank my subscribers with their uplifting comment. You always encourage me to upload more videos, since this is just a hobby of mine. Again, I appreciate you. Enjoy all these videos, and you all have an awesome day. Take care. If you're interested to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe to my channel, and you will be notified when a new video being uploaded. You have a great day.